let us discuss about integers. Integers are the negatives and positives. This part is very small, but it is the most important part when you are learning about algebra. If you know nothing about integers, there is nothing that you can do about algebra. So the most important part we should start with before learning about algebra, we should understand what are the integers. Means we should understand what are the negatives and positives. How are the operations on them. Now we have to start with multiplication. Ukianza na multiplication, starting with multiplication and divisions, the principles that are applied in divisions and principles that have been applied in multiplication are the same when now you are dealing with integers. So the principles that are applied in multiplication and division when you are dealing with what we call it integers are the same. Means if now you say positive times negative, it's the same as saying positive divided by negative. So an answer will be the same. So we are looking for the sign that if positive multiplied by negative, what will be an answer? If positive divided by negative, what will be an answer? And what happens if negative multiplied by positive and negative divided by positive? That is why I have said the principles that are applied in multiplication and divisions are the same. By doing so means plus, that is positive, times negative, and answer must be negative. And positive divided by negative, and answer will be what? Negative. This is the most important case. Kwamba nikichukua hii hapa positive nikazidisha na negative, an answer is negative. Na nikichukua positive nikagawanya na negative, an answer will be negative. The same applied, nikichukua negative multiplied by positive, an answer will be negative. If negative is divided by positive, an answer will be negative. And that is the most important case you have to catch up. The same applied, negative times negative is positive. Negative divided by negative is positive. Positive by positive is positive. And positive divided by positive is positive. Catch up these points. Positive times negative is negative. And positive divided by negative is negative. And negative times positive is negative. And negative divided by positive is negative. And negative times negative is positive. The negative divided by negative is positive. So these are the important cases that you have to consider. Example here, you have negative 35 divided by negative 5. This means that it is negative 35 over negative 5. Negative divided by negative, you get positive. And 35 divided by 5 is 7. So it may happen that you are dealing with y is equal now, let's say it is 2y here, is equal now to negative 5. So we are looking for the value of y. So we have to divide by negative 2 here, we divide here by negative 2. So an answer will be y is equal to negative divided by negative is positive. 5 divided by, it is 5 over 2, which is positive. That is what I mean here. If you find there is negative divided by negative, an answer must be positive. But if now you find there is a positive times negative, an answer will be negative. For this one, positive times negative, an answer is negative. Then it is 40 times 20, which is equal now to 800. What is the difference between the normal number and this integer data? The number should be written with integers at behind of that number. Kwa nyuma ya hii number tunaweka negative. Kwa nini negative? Kwa sababu positive by negative is negative. But when it comes to this one, we have positive divided by negative. Means there is a positive here and there is negative here. Therefore, positive divided by negative, and answer is negative. Then 40 divided by 20 is now 2. So this is an answer. It is not only 2. If now you would have written only 2 here, it's not possible because these 2 what? It is negative 2. So, and it is written as negative 2. And we read it as negative 2. This is negative 800. And then when you come back to this one, negative 4 times positive. Positive may be written or not written. If something is not written with any sign, that represents positive. That is why this is negative 4 times positive 5. Now negative times positive now means that you have to multiply the signs themselves. That is why you say negative times positive is negative. Then 4 times this one is 200. So this is negative 200. But when you look at this one, we have negative 40, then divided by positive 5. So that is negative 40, then over positive 5. This means that this divided by this one is negative 8. Why is it negative? Because negative divided by positive is negative. That is very important. But also, when you look at this one, bracket means we are just talking about negative 3 times negative 5. So if now we are just talking about negative 3 times negative 5, negative times negative is equal to positive, and 3 times 5 is 15. So that is why an answer is positive 15. So what I can conclude, when you are just talking about multiplication and divisions, principles that are applied in multiplication and principles that are applied in divisions are the same. Means that if you are talking about positive times negative is negative, also positive divided by negative is negative. If now you are just talking about negative times negative is positive, also negative divided by negative is positive. So this is the important parts that you have to consider when we are just talking about negatives and positive. And that is all about integers in multiplications and division. And that is what I said. It is not so difficult. It is not difficult considering about negative and positive in terms of multiplication and division. What is difficult when you are just talking about what we call it addition and subtraction? And that is the next part that we are going to learn about integers. After you have learned about multiplication and divisions in integers, the second part in integers you have to learn is about addition and subtraction. As I said before when I was introducing operation on integers, I said multiplication and divisions are not somehow complicated than this addition and subtraction. Means what? Whenever now you are discussing about addition and subtraction, there are some of the principles which are somehow difficult, or you need to digest them so as you may get the exact answer that is required to be done. Example here, I've said positive plus negative. If now you have positive and then you add up with negative, an answer may be negative or may be positive. So there is a reason why it must be negative and why it may be negative or positive. Why there must be two answers. That is the point that you have to remember. When looking at this example you have written, we have positive 20 and then plus negative 30. When you look at these numbers, we have 20 and we have 30. Between these two numbers, we have two integers here. We have negative and we have positive at the same points. Means these two integers, these two signs are between these two numbers. So there is no principle that you can solve this question by having two signs at between of those two numbers. So you need to remain at least one sign, because this is positive and this is negative. So how do we remove one of them? So we remove one of them by multiplying those signs. Means you take that positive, you multiply it by negative, so as you may remain one of them. That is why it was important for us, first of all, to understand what is multiplication and what is division. Because here we have to multiply themselves so as we may remain with them. Maana yake tunazipambanisha kwa kuzidisha hizi hapa mbili ili ibaki moja. Kwa sababu hakuna sababu ya alama ya chanya na hasi kuwa katikati ya hizi namba zikiwa hazijazingirwa na namba. Maana yake tunatakiwa ibaki pamoja. Na ndio maana sasa tunafanya multiplication kwamba positive times negative is negative. Now that is what I said earlier. Kwamba tutakuwa sasa na positive 20 and negative 30. This is what I have. Because we have said positive times negative is negative. Kwa hiyo by reading this number we have positive 20 and we have negative 30. In other words, we just have 20 minus 30. Hapa ndipo wanafunzi wanasema it is impossible. 20 minus 30 is impossible. No. This is possible because definitely this is positive and this is negative. So we look at the number, which number is greater than the other. Means between 20 and 30, which one is greater? Automatically this is greater. Which sign is behind of that greater number is negative. That will be an answer. So umenielewa kwamba tunaangalia namba ipi kati ya hizi namba mbili. Kati ya 20 na 30 ni namba ipi kubwa? 30 ni namba kubwa. Alama ipi iliyopo nyuma ya hiyo namba kubwa ambayo ni 1. Then the difference between 30 and 20. The difference between that bigger number and the smaller number. That is 30 minus 20, which is equal to 10. Now an answer is negative 10. So I've written this negative 10 bit. The reason is that you look at the number, which one is greater than? This is number 30, which is greater than number 20. Which sign is behind that greater number is negative. That gives you an answer. So an answer will be negative. And what number is that? It is the difference between the bigger number minus the smaller number. That is why it is negative 10. But when you find this one, we have positive, that is positive 45. Then we have said we have positive and negative. So we have to multiply these two signs so as we remain with one sign. So positive times negative, we get it is negative 20. So when you look at this one, we just have 45 minus 20. This is simple to the student because they understand on how we can take 45 minus 20. But mathematically, according to the integers, we can say we have positive 45 and we have negative 20. Now the bigger number is 45 and the sign behind that 45 is positive. Now the difference between the bigger number and the smaller number is 25. That is why an answer here is positive. That is why I say when you find there is positive plus negative, an answer may be negative or may be positive. That is very important. How does it happen it is positive and how does it happen it is negative? I have explained. What you have to do is to look at the number which is the greater and you look at the sign which is behind of that greater number. That is the one that gives you an answer. Kwa unaangalia namba ipi ambayo ni kubwa na alama iliyopo nyuma ya namba hiyo kubwa ndio alama ya jibu. Then when you look at this one also you find we are positive minus the negative. An answer will be positive. How? This is positive 20 minus negative 20. When you look at this thing, as I said before, you cannot deal with an expression that is having two signs between between two numbers. So we have negative and negative. So what we have to do is to multiply those integers. Negative times negative, you get positive. And therefore we have positive 20, then positive 20. And that is why simply we have positive 20, positive 20. It's just like to say 20 plus 20, which is equal now to positive 40. Because all of them are positive. So we have to sum them. Because all of them are positive. So we have to sum them. So as in total we get positive 40. So this is very important. But we have the other principle here. If now you have negative plus positive is equal now to positive or negative, it may be an answer may be negative or positive. So how? This is negative 20 plus positive 40. Remember, positive times positive can be omitted. So we have to multiply them. Positive and positive. That is positive times positive is positive. So this is negative 20, then positive what? Positive 40. Therefore, you look at the number. Which one is greater? 40 is greater than 20. Behind the 40, we have positive. So an answer is positive. The difference between greater number and smaller number is 20. That is why here we have said it is positive 40, 20. Exactly when you look at this one, you have positive and positive. You have to multiply them so as you may remain with one sign. So this is the negative 48. Then positive times positive is positive 10. So we have negative 48 means negatives are many and positive are few. So in that kind, we look at the bigger number, which is positive. So if 48 is the greater number than 10, 48 is greater than number 10, means behind 48 we have negative. The difference between them is that what? 38. So this is how now we can catch up. It is negative, here it is positive, here it is negative. So in short, when you are dealing with addition and subtraction of integers, you have to consider the number which is greater than the other. When you look at the number which is greater than the other, look at it. Behind of that number which is greater, which sign is it there? The sign, if it is negative, that gives you an answer. That will be the sign of that answer. Example, another example here, we have negative 20, negative, positive 25. Means we have negative here, we have positive here. So we have to multiply themselves. Therefore, negative times the positive, we get negative. So we have negative 20 and then we have negative 25. So means what? We have negative 20, but also we have negative 25. How many negatives are in total? So we have to add them. So this is the negative 20 and negative 25. So in total, we have negative 45. Why I've written negative 45? Because all of these are negatives. So we have to consider, we are just talking about negative 20 and negative 25. So negative 20 and negative 25. In total, we have negative 45. So that is the difference. When you look at this one, we have negative 48 and positive 10. So in total here, we don't have something in total here, because we are looking for the number which is greater than. So we have negative and we have positive. So to compare negative and positive, we look at the greater number. So this is 48, which is greater than 10. If 48 is greater than 10, so we look at the sign behind of that 48, which is negative. And that is why an answer will be negative, because negatives are many than those which are found in positive. So this carries a number, a greater value. This number, negative, carries a number with the greater value compared to the number that is carried by positive. That is why it is negative 38. But when you look at this one also, you have negative 90 minus the positive 9. When you look at this one, we have two signs together. So we have positive and negative. To remove one of them, so as we may remain with one of them, we have to multiply themselves. That is why negative times positive, we get it negative. So we have negative 90 and then we have negative 90 again. So in total, we have negative 9s. We have negative 9s. So these are all negatives that we are having them. So we just put them in total, which is equal to 108. It is quite different. Somebody would have given you this, let's say, it is now negative, let's say it is negative 50, then positive 50. When you look at this one, negative 50 and positive 50. So there is no number which is greater than the other. So the difference is what? Is 0. Now, if the difference is 0, 0 is neutral. Is neither negative nor positive. Is neither negative nor positive. It is only 0 as it is. When you are considering about number line, we have numbers to the right and numbers to the left of 0. Numbers to the left are called negatives and numbers to the right are called positive. But when now you are considering about negative and positive with equal number, the difference is 0. And 0 has got no any kind of the sign. So you have to consider that one. When you look at this one, negative 20 plus negative 29. When you look at this one, this is negative and positive. You have to multiply them. So once you multiply them, you find it is negative 20, positive and negative. Negative what? 29. So in total, you are having negative. So we have negative 49. This is in total. The same applicable. So this can be applied in different algebraic equations or expressions whenever now you are dealing with algebra. You may find negative 2y, negative 3y. That is negative 2 minus 3y. That is not correct to read in that kind of the way. It is negative 2y, negative 3y. So we are having negative 5y because both of them are negative. So we have to sum those negative. Just like you're having 5 goats and 5 goats together, you have 10 goats. So that is the principle that I'm talking about here. Then the other concept is that negative minus negative may be positive or negative. How does it happen? When you look at this one, we have negative 28 minus negative 50. But when you look at the signs that exist in between those numbers, we have 28 and 50. That is very important to understand. We have negative and negative. So to remove one of them, we have to multiply them. Negative times negative is positive. So we'll be having negative 28, then positive 50. So when you look at this one, we have different signs here. If now we have different signs, we have to look at the number which one is greater. So we have negative 28, positive 50. Now 50 is greater than 28. And behind 50 we have what? Positive. So our answer will be equal now to positive. Then the difference between 50 and 28 is the 22. So this is positive 22. But the difference is here. We have negative 75 minus negative 25. But we have this negative and this negative. So what we have to do is to multiply these two signs here between. Because there is no number that intersects them. So there is no number between them. So we have to multiply so as we may remain with one of them. That is why now we take negative times negative, we get positive. So we have negative 75. Negative 75. Then we have positive 25. Then we look at those numbers that we have obtained. So we have negative 75 and we have positive 25. You look at the number, which one is greater? We have negative is 75. Now 75 is greater than 25. And behind 75 there is negative. So an answer will be negative. Then the difference between greater number and smaller number is the 50. Now this is negative 50. So these are the special cases when you are considering about what we call it integers. And especially in addition and subtraction. That is why now you can find the question say that it is 2 minus 28y. It is 2y minus 28y. It is not possible. Don't say that it is not possible. No, it is possible. Because this is positive 2y and this is negative 28. If this is negative 28 and this is positive 2y, so we look at the number which is greater than. Now 28 is greater than 2. Now behind 28 there is negative. So an answer 2 minus 28 is negative 26y. So this is very important. Because if now you misunderstand this one, example maybe you have negative 5y then plus 38y. This here it is. You have negative 5y plus 38y. You cannot put together this one because this is negative 5 and this is positive 38. So what you have to do, behind the greater number there is positive and that is the one gives you an answer as positive. Then the difference between this one is 33y. So we have 33y and we have this one. So it can be written as positive or negative, depends on the greater number and which sign is behind of the greater number. Because what we are considering is the sign that behind the greater number. The sign that behind the greater number is the one gives you an answer. If you don't consider the sign behind the greater number, you cannot get an exact answer that is supposed to be done. So that is the most important case that you have to understand. And that is why I said earlier, when you are considering about addition and subtraction about integers, is where now you can find some sort of complication. But it is not difficult as you can see, if now you can see here. As you can see here, by following the principle that we are having. So that is how you can deal with integers. So integers can be applicable in different ways. And especially when you are talking about algebra, you won't escape this one. It is everywhere when you're just talking about algebra. You will be taking about negative divided by negative, positive. Now negative divided by positive is negative, and so forth. Even if now you are opening the bracket, example maybe, you are opening the bracket. Consider you have here, you have negative 2. And inside the bracket, you have 2y, then minus 3. This is what we are having. So outside the bracket here, you have negative 2. So opening the bracket is open the bracket means the number which are found in the bracket will definitely change to its different signs because of the number which is outside the bracket. Negative times negative 2 times positive. We'll be having now, this is negative times positive is negative 4y. And then negative times negative is positive 6. So we have got negative 4y plus 6, and it was not before that one. Before this was negative and this was positive. But now we have changed the sign simply because we have multiplied negative times positive is negative, and negative times negative is what? Is positive. So the most important case here you have to understand is looking at the sign that is behind the sign that is outside the bracket. If there is a negative outside the bracket, definitely change every sign which is found in the bracket. So that is very important. But it cannot be possible if now you are talking about, let's say, you have positive 2, then in bracket you have 2y, then minus 3. This, because it is positive, it will not change anything. It won't. Why is it so? Because positive times positive is positive, and positive times negative is negative. That's why the sign remains the same. Positive times positive is 4y. Then positive times negative is negative what? 6. So this is negative as it was before, and this is positive as it was before. Why is it so? Because positive will not change any sign inside the bracket, but negative changes anything that is found in the bracket, including the signs. And that is the most important case that you have understood. But in short, that I can conclude. The thing that I want to conclude when talking about positive and negatives and the special addition, if now you are dealing with positive and negative, look at the number which is greater. And then the sign that is behind that, the greater number, the one gives you an answer. Example, we have positive, we have negative. If I write here 10, then here 20. Then here I write, let's say it is 50, then here it is 10. So when you look at this one, it is positive 10, negative 20. Behind negative, which is the 20, behind 20 there is negative, and 20 is greater than 10. So an answer will be negative, the difference between the bigger number and the smaller number, which is 10. When you look at this one, behind the positive, which is 50, and 50 actually is greater than 10, so an answer will be positive. Why is it so? Because behind the greater number, there is a positive. That is why the positive sign that is involved in answer, and this the difference is what? Is 40. The same applied if now you have 20, then you positive, then my negative, let's say it is 75. Here it is. When you look at this one, it is 20 minus 75. Don't even try to say it is impossible. No, it is possible, because this is positive and this is the negative. By looking at these numbers, we have to consider is positive 20, negative 75. Negatives are many. Now an answer is negative. Difference between it is now, we can take 20, it is now 55. So that is all about considering addition and subtraction, about what we call it integers. Thank you for watching our learning video.